Oh, a little trick there. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is in the world you're coming to us from. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Striking, here in the digital media world. So glad to be hosting another episode of DYOR live here on the DYOR Media Network. So glad to be bringing this show to you today all over the great interwebs here on YouTube, X, and today on LinkedIn, because we have a more economic topic, not just the typical degen topic that we've been talking about lately. So welcome to those viewers on LinkedIn. My comment machine doesn't work so great on LinkedIn because they don't have that figured out yet that well. So if you drop some comments, I may not see it. You can always join us over on the YouTube feed or on the X feed for live interaction with both myself and my co-host Pedro Garcia in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Pedro Garcia. I got to turn your mic on right here. There you go. Good morning, Pedro.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well. It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Would y'all be cool enough to be my friends?
That was a weird start.
Anyways, all right, I was trying to be funny there. Trying to be unique. Yeah, there we go.
That was
What's
like
up, Charles?
Welcome, Chuck Jansen, to the house. Pedro, what's happening today?
Not much, man. Things are beautiful today. Market is moving. Things are churning. It is a beautiful day. It's real nice. So thankful for that. It's been really interesting, man. Just kind of watching these markets and doing what they're
Well, hold on, Pedro. We got a lot to talk about first.
Oh, yes, we do.
So what I got a little social media stuff to do to get the word out about the show. Pedro, tell everyone what they're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. If you guys don't mind doing me a favor, and please hit that like, subscribe, and share button. As you all know, I say share to your preferred social media platforms and the ones you don't prefer. Why? Because sometimes if you want to make fun of us and people can have a laugh at us, do whatever they want to do, it is totally okay. As long as they are interacting with us on the screen, we're happy for it. So thank you and have a good day. Also, if you don't mind as well, interact with us by making a comment of where you would like to be and where you are coming from. Or if you just want to pick one or the other, you may do that as well. Either way, we just want you to hit that little
Chuck
thing.
said awkward.
Awkward. Okay. But either way, we ask you guys just to kind of connect with us. And you guys over there at X, man, we've got quite a few people and they never ever say what's up. And I'm just like, come on. I'm like a fat kid in a candy store waiting for somebody to say hi to me so I can buy. And you guys just leave me there hanging and nobody comes out of the candy shop to say, hey, what's going on, dude? You want to buy something? So I'm sitting there salivating, waiting for somebody to come out. Let me buy something and y'all won't. So say something, please. Anyway. No, man, so that's in a nutshell. The biggest thing is this is say something. If you what's that thing that they say and what is it in on the ship or even in
Last women and children first?
No. The saying something is carrying or something like that. I forget exactly what they say. And gotta drive a van by the candy shop. Oh, that's hilarious. What's up, Mr. Darrow Lawton? How you doing, brother? It is good to have you. You rock the mic. What's up? Also, shout out to Troublesome. Good to have you too as well. You rock the mic, man. Always good to see you. What else I'm trying to say?
Oh, there we go. There's the first yawn of the show. Uh-oh.
Man,
it's going to be a tough one today, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, man, it's going to be fun. Nah, for whatever. It's just a lot of stuff happening today in me casa, and me personal life. So it's okay. It is good. It is good.
Well, I'm putting the word out there. I'm a little behind in that. We had just a little different show start today here.
Oh, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, but we're taking a little different track today. We did Technical Tuesday yesterday, hit all of the cryptos we needed to. Got the word out on the top 10, what's going on with them, and kind of got everybody set for the week. Today, Wednesday, we thought we'd hit a little heavier topic. There's been some good talk in the world lately about USDT. The past couple years, USDT in like the land of crypto exchanges has been like, this is the greatest thing ever. It's easy to use. They mint it as we need it. In the real world, people were like, Oh yeah, well it's not backed by anything. It's not any good. It's not backed by anything at all. And I was pointing out to them, well, it's backed on a lot of back then, a couple years ago. I said it's backed on a lot of money and a lot of other types of things, including promises too. And they're like, "See, I told you." And I was like, "Well, that's what the U.S. government's money is backed on." And they're like, "Well, it's different." And I'm like, "Well, how is it different?" And they're like, "Well, because it's different." Admittingly, the U.S. has a giant military and a quadrillion-dollar economy around it, but that's the same point. It's the same thing. It's based on trust. But Tether took some steps to say, all right, we've been getting a lot of grief. We need to boost this up, and they brought in some financial advisors, investment banks, and such. One of which is a company called Cantor Fitzgerald, and their chairman Howard Lutnick, famously, without being prompted on CNBC. I don't know, sometime last year, it just said, we're the custodians for Tether for their U.S. treasuries. And we have, at the time, they said something like 60 billion in U.S. treasuries. And I think this was when when Tether was valued at 80 billion. And so the whole market went, whoa, wait a minute. We didn't expect that. We didn't expect someone to publicly say, I'm involved with them, especially one of the most prestigious houses in all of Wall Street. And two, that they had so many billions in U.S. treasuries, and then they start reporting their profits because the interest rates went up. So all of a sudden, everyone's like, oh, Tether is a real thing. And so Pedro and I are going to talk about a bunch of things, BTC here in a minute, and what's going on with that, and the economy in general as it relates to the U.S. dollar. But it's specifically as it relates to, not specifically, but in addition, as it relates to USDT and how Wall Street is really, we talk about ETFs like, oh, Wall Street's finally getting into it. No, Wall Street's not finally getting into it. That's just another one of the ways they're getting into it. And we'll talk about these types of things. So Pedro, while I finish up the social media here and stuff like that, let's tell people what is going on with the B and the T and the C.
Absolutely, Matt. So we actually are in some really unique situations here. So as you guys can see here on my screen, that we talked about this, and I drew this yesterday, and I said this line in the sand right here, in which I made it purple, right, was for a reason. This was a significant moment, as if we can see volume at this lower level really pushed it, because right here was going to be a liquidity pool. There are a lot of stops sitting right here. And so this, as the market was selling off, a lot of these people here basically got stopped out right underneath here. And what this symbolizes is these longs here. These longs are going up. So there are stops here that are shorts. And so I brought up yesterday that when they get triggered and those shorts those stops get triggered, which are sells, who are going to be on the other side to buy it? Institutions, right? So that would then trigger a rally that we should see for a day or two off of this level. If this is going to continue, we need to see big volume come in and really start to step in and push this high, because we also have this same point right here. And I'm actually going to change this up now. We're going to put this right here. Put this little guy right here.
What time frame chart you got up there?
This is a daily chart of the BTC, Mr. Beast, aka Taylor Swift and Swifties over there, to really get a movement in this market. If this thing can get going, we should see it kind of bounce off of this area here. So this is the next supply area that we're going to hit. If we hit this area and I start to see it consolidate and then drop, it's going to be one of those things that I then expected to go lower and down into these 52,000 area. And we talked about this yesterday. I said we should see at least come down to this level here and see how it's going to happen here. So it's doing as we planned. So let's go ahead and go into the is going to see if there are any zones that were created here that might potentially stop us on the intraday. There's nothing really here. Yep. And let's check here. Okay, something there on the 2 hour.
Welcome, DYOR baby, to the house. Thanks for joining us. Really
Baby.
appreciate it.
We got some. Okay, we got.
For the rest of you chumbalones out there, please comment, like, share, follow, and comment again. Just join the discussion. Join us. That's what we're here for. This is a two-way interactive show for all of you joining us on X and LinkedIn that are new to this. We rely on you guys giving us comments, and we rely on you guys correcting us when we go awry.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you ever hear me talking about craziness, you can say, Pedro, you're talking crazy, dude. You need to chill out. You need to sit down. Be humble. Dude, I love that song, dude. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Dude, you got it. It's a song that says, sit down, be humble. And like a good, 1, 2, 3, boom. Okay. Do that. 1, 2, 3. See, I don't see much. So this potentially, as we're moving down and up, I don't really see much. I don't see a lot of volume really that can keep us from stopping. So I'd expect to see this baby turn around here and come back and test. It's going to test this 8-period moving average potentially, and or touch this zone right here on that weekly. And you can see here that we have that weekly 8 sitting right here. So I'd expect to see some little movement potentially to come back up to drop it here. So it's gonna be really interesting as we move into this area. But like I said, we did expect this. That's why we drew that line right here, because there were going to be some stops here to see it push back up and to tap this little purple line right here to see it turn around and potentially go down. So it's just these little small things. I'm now more confident that we potentially could see it come back down to that 53 area as we tap-a-roo that area. Tap it in. Right here at that 58, 751 area-ish. So yeah, it's real fun. I love BTC moving the way it's moving, man. I mean, this is just classical trader movement here, so it's really fun.
Pedro,
Yes, sir.
I got a number of questions about BTC.
Yes.
But look at the studio feed.
Ooh, studio feed. Okay, here we go.
Or the YouTube feed if you're watching that too.
Oh, does he know? Laugh out loud, Pedro.
I didn't mean the comments.
Pedro the comments. Studio feed, me and you.
Not the comments. The studio feed. My studio.
Oh, what up, my people? Oh, snap.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Pedro Garcia, the moving head in the box above me, is alive.
Oh, yeah. Here we go, my people.
We've been talking about this for a while, but it took Pedro to get some new equipment to make it easier to use. And it may not be all the time, but we got him live here in the show, ladies and gentlemen. And as many of you know, you saw him during his coming out ceremony at the Bitcoin Futures Blockchain Futures Convention in Toronto recently. And Pedro's like, hey, I like this. This worked out pretty well. I need to get my camera online. And I'm like, I know I've been talking about that for a year and a half now. But anyway, I don't know if it'll work all the time, because when we do more stuff, we have more technical trouble. But
yeah,
so far it's working all right. And
crossed,
ladies and gentlemen, you'll get to see Pedro a little bit more often.
There you go. Hey, how you
Crypto
doing?
Jesus.
Crypto Jesus.
I know Pedro said I'm going to come out with the hair out, but I don't think he realizes the blur feature kind of blurs his hair out a lot of the time.
Oh, snaps. Well, I can change that up here real quick. Yeah, man. I think one of those things that right now within this market, and this is what we're seeing. Give me 1 second. Oh, no, don't see. Dang it. I'm going to leave that alone until I'll take care of it tomorrow. I'll make sure that the blur feature is not as prevalent.
Or just put your hair back.
Oh, yeah. We just put it back. There you go. There we go. But I think one of those things that as right now as we're looking at the market is that it's really trying to understand, and this is again, right? You have these buyers that I think want to see Bitcoin drop. and they want to get in at a really good price for their clients. And so the problem is there's not a lot of orders per se that could push the market down, right? And so the institutions have to sit there. And this is one thing that's kind of awesome about, I would say, crypto investors, is that you guys really are kind of a diehard, like legit entity where we we really do diamond hand this thing. So it's a real valid situation for institutions, because like crypto is more of a religion for most people. Is that it? It really is. People are like, they see it as the savior or a messianic entity in which you can actually use to jump out of the matrix per se, right? And not that saying like I'm quoting people who use that term, but there is a type of rat race that most people have to follow and go through, and crypto is kind of like that aspect of being able to get in, and at least some people who are in it right now. And so they're not willing to sell their product, right, for institutions. Typically when you see this type of movement, you have big sellers and institutions. So as institutions keep buying up the dips and the sells, it allows them to then have more power, but the people themselves. So it's a really interesting thing. It's a real interesting thing. And I think there's going to be a new psychology that's going to come out in crypto. I mean, I know that a few
Kimchi Man, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. What's up,
if
Kim?
Pedro's Crypto Jesus, then who is Crypto Judas? Oh, well, I don't know. I hope I don't look like him.
Oh man. I would, it's interesting is watching the SEC talk about creating a what's the word I want to use? The forms, the correct forms for crypto, right? And saying how a lot of these are catch-22 for these entities to come public. And so it throws off the traditional finance and the way of looking at the world, right? And then additionally to that, as they're like kind of scraping for the chance to be able to basically screw over crypto, they find themselves almost in a way where, because like part of their way to make their money is through what's the word I want to use? Through SEC makes
theft?
their money, through theft,
fines,
right,
fines,
there you go,
penalties.
And so you see this big overlay of how do we get into their cofferdam, because we keep getting screwed over every time we go after them. We keep losing. So how do we not lose? And so I was thinking, if they, if we create a correct form for them, then we could potentially go through and really start pulling money from this organization. So I think them just coming in and creating the right forms for us is one of those things. I feel like it's almost like a robo-dope, but I feel like crypto is like, I feel like we're smarter, like legitly smarter, and we know their game, and then we can always play our game at the same time. And so it's going to be really interesting to see what actually happens.
We'll get to it.
S1 form, that's what I'm looking for. My brain was sitting there trying to remember
the S1 form. Well, there are plenty of S1. There's the simpler form if you have under 2,000 investors or under so much money, that Form K or something like that, or Section K, or I don't know what it's called. Anyway, but back up to BTC, you brought up a good point about Bitcoin ownership, and our friend Anton Gola posted this on YouTube or on LinkedIn the other day. In fact, it was today. Bitcoin ownership distribution as of February this year, which is it's probably changed a little bit with the ETFs and all that kind of going nuts. But the if you can't read the numbers here, it says miners own about 714,000 BTC. Satoshi's wallet is a little over 1 million. About close to 4 million lost. Early in the days, people could have wallets that had a couple 100,000 in bitcoins in them, and they lost the wallet. Imagine that! Oh my word! And then individuals hold between No, they hold 12 million BTC. They're guessing it's between 81 and 130 million individuals around the world. Businesses hold 760,000 BTC. Funds, ETFs, 818,000 BTC. That's increased since the ETFs have gone up.
Yeah.
I'd like to see an update of this. Source, bitcointreasuries.net. I'm going to go there when Pedro's talking again and figure this out. And governments own 500,000. Governments own more than 500,000 now because they've seized a lot more. And to be mined, still, 1.3 million. So still interesting that to the best of what they can figure out, individuals still hold a bulk of the Bitcoin, which is good. Good for everybody in that BlackRock and those guys haven't cornered the market yet. But, I'd like to see some updated numbers on that. Space Cat's in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Space Cat in the house.
What up, Space Cat? How you doing, brother? It's good to see you. He was one.
Just did the wrong. Did Chuck Jansen's.
Oh, and dude, also Kimchi Man, dude. I was thinking about this. You know who could be the crypto Judas, but reverse?
Reverse Judas?
Yeah, reverse Judas, right? Okay. Or almost maybe you call him Pontius Pilate in a sense. If you're going to sit there and go keep with the biblical theme, and I would say it might be. And me and Tom were talking about this. It potentially could be Gensler. And you're like, what? Like, how is that possible? The man keeps losing against crypto so much, and you would think that he would do a better job, right? And so we were thinking he could be for us, but just because of the political situation that he's currently in, he is actually playing like, all right, look, I'll probably lose this case, so let's go ahead and run this and spend all this money. So potentially he could be the guy who's sitting there trying to release Jesus, but then you got all this other rigmarole that's going on within the and i.e. Jesus being crypto at large and whatever you want to look at it. I can't believe we're sticking with this theme. This is kind of nuts. Anyways, and like I can see all my religious friends going, "You're a heretic," like yeah, I probably am.
Hey, this is a really cool chart that on bitcointreasuries.net.
Yeah.
It's it kind of relies on people publicly putting information here, so I don't know how reliable it is. But generally, when this stuff is crowdsourced and people identify wallets, it's pretty good. The U.S. government has been selling off its Bitcoin, and it is down to 213,000 BTC. China 190,000. United Kingdom 61,000. Various entities of the Ukraine government 46,000, and most of them have been seized from Russian sources. But the big guy up here, the public company MicroStrategy, owns 226,000 BTC, and the next one is Marathon Digital at 25,000, and even Tesla down to 9,000. Coinbase only 9,000.
That's so interesting.
You know what? I'm not sure what's going on here. It says the largest private company is Block One. It's 164,000. Tether at 75,000. BitMEX at 54,000.
Who was Block One?
Wait, doesn't Tether own part of BitMEX? Anyway, but I don't see Binance on here, and Binance is one of the largest.
Definitely one of the largest holders.
Maybe there's a separate thing for exchanges or something. No, I don't know how this thing works. Maybe this chart isn't exactly what I thought, but yeah, where the hell's Binance?
That's really
maximize button. Oh my word! Look at this. There. Oh, all right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that's not what I expected there.
Absolutely.
How could I not have Binance? Private companies?
Maybe it's just private companies, and they potentially are like a public company, per se. But then that would exclude MicroStrategy.
Yeah, BitMEX was on there.
And BitMEX, yeah. I'm just trying to think, like, what potentially is it?
well, I didn't get out of that what I wanted.
It's all good. So it's just real interesting though, as the rest of the market is starting to get a little pump. This is one of those things that, you could get a headwind as well. Whereas like if the rest of the industry is starting to pump at these levels, you could potentially see some big movement starting to have and a trade that you could be taking. So like BTC is moving, but it's just little things you could be taking advantage. I think it's real important. What I find real important, even interesting, you were talking about BTC. So you have Ethereum, which is pumping off the same level, right? But then look at Binance. Binance is kind of like it popped at that same level, but I'll push this out because it's pretty much the same level that we were talking about here. And so we popped off of it, the same thing, but this is actually showing weakness. And so we talked about this, how potentially BNB could be almost like the Russell 2000, where it's almost like a leading indicator in a sense. So it'd be really interesting to see if this does start to see a sell-off at these levels here. Excuse me 1 second, I'm gonna cough, forgive me.
Then I'm gonna pop my screen up again real quick here.
There we go, sorry about that.
That's right. Kimchi Man asked, is the German government still oh, my screen didn't come up here. There it is. This is the German government's balance over time. And the orange line here is they were holding for a long time and then dumped it all recently. And the news corroborates that story that the German government got rid of it.
Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting.
And they just have a token balance now.
So did they drop it all or did they just drop some of it? So it was 50,
they just unloaded it. They unloaded it in the past month, according to this chart here. Starting in July, starting July 1st, they started dumping it. I'm willing to bet July 1st is the beginning of the German government fiscal calendar.
I see.
You're welcome, Kimchi Man. You're welcome.
Definitely, brother. Definitely.
When bitcoins are going to be worth $1 bazillion, they're going to be like, oh, shit. Shouldn't have sold those.
Well, what's interesting is that, as a government, I wonder how they were, because, governments aren't supposed to, make money, right, per se. Like it's right. A service in a sense. So they could have been, oh, there's the dead cats going on. There you go. Now, Tom, this is on a side note. All right. You heard really what my sound sounds like.
I did. Right? I did. Yeah. Pedro's microphone cuts out certain frequencies, and it was a very soothing violin.
Yes.
A sonata or chamber music of three.
Yes.
Three violins or so. It was very nice. I woke up to it one morning. Hold on now.
Oh, there you go.
My turn to sneeze. And it was very nice. I was like, "Oh, that's nice. What is that?" And he goes, "That's the noise you hear all the time." I'm like, "That's the screeching cats I hear, the yes. Bad Arabic music that plays on your phone." And he's like, "Yes, that's what it is." But I was like, "Oh, your microphone cuts out those frequencies because I don't hear it. I only hear the part."
Yes. So it's actually really nice. It's a really pretty. First time I heard it, I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like you said, it's like 3 or 4 stringed instruments just playing in this melodic sound of just it's beautiful. And you're just like, oh, wow. So what you're catching is only, I could only imagine what it sounds like. It's just something really, really small sound. So it's just a really interesting situation. And I don't know what to tell you. Hey, that's how it works. But talking a little bit about charts here and stuff like that, I almost want to jump into a little bit about what's with the dollars doing here. Ooh. Well,
yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the general topic of the show today, Pedro, let me give a little intro on that.
Yeah.
Then we'll start with your talk about the dollar. It was Cantor and USDT. And their support of it, but more along the lines in the body of it, I talked about how the U.S. dollar does have some issues, and Pedro's going to go over that. When you look at it from one perspective, like from the perspective of overextension of the credit of the United States government, and how that affects the currency. But then on the other hand, you look at it from the crypto perspective and how this little small nascent industry is growing. And it's created this behemoth here we call Tether. And I had AI make the Tether logo here, but I kind of think that's the Tesla logo. It's like a combination of Tether and Tesla instead. But anyway, and how that's reshaping the financial world as well. We'll get to that in a minute. But Pedro, take it away about what's going on with the U.S. dollar in terms of the economy and the rest of the world.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I always bring up, and I think this is really important, is that I see what just happened. That sucks. Okay, give me a second. All right, I was going to try to do maybe this will work better. Okay, so right here, right now we've seen the U.S. dollar just plummet over the last couple months. And actually, let me do this here real quick. From a trading standpoint, they have literally just been crushing it, just dropping this. And then last week we saw a bit of a rebound here. And so this is and remember what I always talk about, guys, is that if we see a market, and all this really was profit taking. And so this is the 200 period moving average on the dollar. Now, as this thing is going down here, you can see here that 8 period moving average, it's starting to hold. Like you saw, it got engaged here, and then now it held this, and now it's going to depend on what happens when it comes back and retests this 8 period moving average. Now we have two saving graces here on the US dollar. We have a good demand zone, which is sitting about right here at that 99.837 to the 99.571 area. And in addition to that, you also have the 50 period moving average sitting at the 100 period, and again, this is the monthly 50 period moving average, which is a really strong indicator of what's actually happening. So this potentially could act as support and extreme support for the US dollar that will keep this from plummeting. Now, if the US dollar plummets, it makes doing business in America advantageous because it's cheaper to do business with us, right? If we go abroad to other nations, right, it makes it hard for us because it makes it more expensive for us. But for other nations to want to come in and visit us when our dollar is really low, it pushes up their dollar. Now, this is also, there's a lot that correlates here with, and also is inverse to each other, because if they are paired to us, it changes things. And if they're not paired to the US dollar. But on the back end, though, I'm looking at this because as we're moving from literally from a trading standpoint, we went up a little and now we're selling off. And so we could see the market again see another sell-off down to these lower levels, and literally just take off $1 worth of. And I know you're like, it's only $1, but because of the inverse relationship in many other currencies, $1 is could be $2, could be $4. It could also based off of transfer rates and fees. It can change dramatically. So $1 drop is a big, from a financial business standpoint, a big deal. We're talking a 5, 10, 15% difference. So we're talking doing business with America versus not doing business. So this could be a good thing to help generate business within America as we see a drop in the dollar as we come further down. And it could literally potentially cause, from an economic standpoint, a revival of kind of keeping us out of the recession that we're currently in right now, but we're not. But we are, but we're not. Anyways, that's for another day, another time. But I'm looking at, if this thing continues down, so we're at a junction point here, and that junction point is really, can we come down? Can we find support on this 8 period moving average, which is sitting roughly right now at that 101.287 area? And if this doesn't hold, then there's nothing really to stop us until we get down to this 99 cent area right? And so much like how we were talking about with Bitcoin, right? And potential stops. Well, there are a bunch of stops right here. So we could, and this would be a negative sign for this asset because we're in a downtrend right now. It's almost 2 months since June, July, August. I guess 3 months. Forgive me. Since June, where we've seen this thing come down. Now we did see it come down in this local basing pattern right now. From like if you look at since for the last couple of years, we've been in this pattern of, and guys, and if you watched me originally on my YouTube show, you saw me put this in right in this level, and then from there as we went sideways, and Tom, when me and you started working together, I kept this here, and we've kept this here playing this game of kind of up and down with the US dollar. But again, it's kind of a crucial area here for us, whereas we're seeing things start to continue down. If this thing continues down now and we get below this level and then we see that big push up again, that's a sign that most likely we're going to continue down potentially to the 97 mark area here. So these are just little things that we want to be paying attention to, and this will affect Bitcoin. This will affect interest rates, and additionally to that, this will also affect jobs here in America. So it's going to be really interesting as we pay attention to this.
Welcome a Weibo token to the show. Thank you for joining us. They're going to be on the show tomorrow, live on camera, talking about their project. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. We'll talk about that more later in the show, but thanks. Share it out. Get your community to come bomb the comments. We'd really appreciate it. We're a little light on the viewers today. We need them. We need them to keep those numbers up.
Yep.
Anyway, so hit that like button, everybody. And viewers, I want you guys to know here that Pedro Thomas here, this chart and these lines that he drew, they go back a long time here. He's been using this chart now for a while, and it's been trading within that range that he kind of selected. Now, obviously, the dollar's always going to trade in a certain range unless things get really out of hand. But once I came down from, what year is that on its highs there? 2000?
Yeah, 22. Yeah, this was November of 22.
2022 when the dollar was super strong. And it's been trading in about 2 years, doing some consolidation here. And
so one of the things also is, like, just so you guys know, when you go and you look at, I also had this as a zone level right here, give me a second. That was a weekly and monthly zone as well. Give me a second. Boom. Because it was weekly. So we also had marked out this area here. Excuse me, I'm about to sneeze again.
Let's see.
Man,
I thought I had a sound effect here I was about to use, but
so this was also an area here that I had selected prior, right? And so we saw it come down to here, and then it bounced and went up. But once it blew through this zone, then on your show, I did take this off so you could, we have that AI. We have the AI in our Telegram, which, by the way, if you guys haven't joined yet, please go join our Telegram. It's
the link in the body notes here. If you're watching on LinkedIn or on YouTube, the link's in the body here. If you're on X, search Telegram for DYOR Media.
Yep. But, we have an AI that basically goes through, and if you want to know when I've called things or how I've called them or what day or show, you can go through and you can say, hey, Striking Balls Telegram area for the DYOR network. When did Pedro say this? And boom, it'll just pull it up. You guys check it out. So, and by the way, dude, I need to put my old shows in there too as well, so that people can go through and look at what I've called.
You'll notice that I haven't brought up the AI bot in the room in a while.
Yeah,
because it won't let me update it.
What? No.
And I can't get any help from Pal at all. I said the button edit knowledge is not working, and the only thing people have said is like, well, you got to delete it and start over. I put so much information to that I couldn't possibly recreate it. Anyway, I'm still working on it slowly but surely. It still works, but the knowledge stopped as of 4 months ago or something.
Oh, that stinks. Okay, well. Sometimes it's the way it is. So, all right. Well, as of right now, we're at this level where if we start to see sellers start to really come in, and you start seeing the sellers start to push this down, it could really put some kind of unrest in the world, and some countries will get kind of wealthy from it. And one being the you know, and I know, Tom has been poo-pooing this currency now for a while, but this will definitely make the BRICS currency much stronger, right? And so as we sell off, it definitely, because they are juxtaposed to what we do, or to the euro, what do you call that? The euro dollar, which is us. It's us, euro, and Japan, how we pair off each other. And so it's how that works in relationship to each other. And as we start to drop, you'll start to see them come stronger, and potentially could even hurt their nations in a sense, because people won't want to do business with them, right? Because it's too expensive to do business with them. So it might actually draw a manufacturing here to America. So this is some subtle geopolitical moves potentially that could be happening here, and so we'll find out as.
I don't think they're subtle when two major countries in the world say "f you" to the U.S.
Yes, yeah, and
I don't think that's very subtle indeed.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're talking about China and the UAE. Excuse me, United Arab Emirates.
No, I was more talking about Russia and China trying to not use U.S. dollars. Yeah, but it's gonna be really hard for those countries for a number of reasons, which we won't go into in this show. That's a whole nother show. That's a whole week of shows.
Yeah, literally. It's literally.
But and first of all, because all the people in those countries want U.S. dollars, and if everyone in your country wants U.S. dollars, do you think the people of China and the people of Russia want another currency based on their own crappy currencies? Of course not.
And they're also imploding.
They want dollars. They want their wealth to be secure, just like everyone else in the world does. And that's via the U.S. dollar right now, or, ladies and gentlemen, via USDT. And the topic of the show today, USDT. And we won't wax on long about this to bore all you guys, but we love getting these things in the YouTube and X and LinkedIn algorithms here for them to think that we're smart guys here. But one of the things that's been going on lately is Tether has been minting money like crazy.
Yes.
Minting, not printing, but minting money. When an exchange or somebody sends them, $1 million, let's round it up to $1 billion in stuff. They will turn around and mint 1 million or 1 billion Tether tokens, each representing $1 US. The accounting behind this must be nightmaric. But anyway, and the market then absorbs that money in the various chains that Tether is issued on. Tron, Sol, whatever. The exchanges take it because they need USDT, because almost every major exchange settles all of the BTC trading in USDT.
And DC.
And DC, but primarily, I would say it's 90% USDT because all of Binance is USDT. They have other pairs too, but the trading is majority of it. And now we have 117 billion, or if so, I don't know the exact number, minted in USDT. And it's starting to power the world. And for a long time, people were talking about, first of all, they're not an American company like Circle, who owns USDC, is. And so they're outside the grasp of the regulators, and not just the regulators, but the ability for them to peer inside easily into what they do, or to have a frank telephone call. Like a government agency can call up Circle and their group of lawyers and just say, I just want to ask you a few questions about a few things, not legal things, but let's have a discussion. Or they go to the club and have a glass of brandy, stuff like that, and talk about things. They can get the information they need. When a company is in Hong Kong or wherever Tether is located, it's kind of outside the club, and thus lots of words are generated about. Why didn't my lo-fi here keep going? Lots of words are generated that are, we'll say, quite negative about it. And for a long time, people were poo-pooing, the voices that be were like, well, Tether is unproven. We don't know who they are. The U.S. can't directly regulate them, so it's bad. All these negative things, but Tether's like, well, the market's really liking us, and then Luna went down, and everyone's like, well, if Luna went down, Terra could go down. Or if Luna went down and their Terra coin, then Tether can go down. Yep. And Tether's like, well, no, not really, because we have billions of dollars in U.S. treasuries now. And in fact, we're buying treasuries.
Actively.
And not just from the U.S. government. We're buying them from China,
where
Japan.
They can get it at a good price.
Yeah, they are loading up on them, especially the ones that, back in the time, the rates were only like 3% and 4%. They were buying those up, and then rates go up to 5%. Pedro, what were the 3 month?
We literally
3 month rates were at 5.5%, 5.75% or something like that.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, Tether comes out and says, "Hey, we made $2.3 billion on our treasuries." And the market went, "What you talking about, Willis?" Yeah. And that's cash. That's cash that they got paid by the United States government, by me and Pedro. We paid them. A couple of you viewers here of the U.S. government, or the United States, paid Tether in our hard tax money, or future tax money since it's debt, their profits. And so in discussion, our friend, I shouldn't say our friend, I should say the chairman of Cantor Fitzgerald, Howard Lutnick, was on CNBC and just comes right down and says, "Oh, we're the custodian for Tether here." And it says it in this tiny print in this article back here. I know you can't see it. We're the custodian for Tether, or at least one of the custodians. Turns out there's more of them. And they've got $63 billion in treasuries. And Howard here says, I'm in control of them. I'm the custodian of them. Doesn't mean they've taken in and sold them and loaned them and all that. It means they're sitting on $63 billion in treasuries in the safe over here in the corner. And representing, and at the time, this was this announcement. Let me see what the date was on this. December 13th. I think Tether was only at like around 80 to 90 billion dollars. What's that, Pedro?
No, I was going to say, also, it was not on the behest of Tether where they requested Fitzgerald to come out and sit there and say, "Can you prove this?" No, Cantor Fitzgerald simply came out on their own free will and said, "Hey, look,
right.
we're the ones who handle this, and these guys are legit." Now, granted, I can only imagine what they're probably raking in a ton of money just sitting on this money, right? I mean, it's not some small change that they're bringing in as a fund, but the fact is that they are the conservator behind this and allowing it to actually happen. They just wouldn't. They are a juggernaut in Washington, or excuse me, not Washington, on Wall Street. And in addition to that, Washington looks to them in other areas. So it's like for them to sit there and come out on their side and say, "No, look, y'all need to be quiet and you're being dumb." Like, was very, it shows, first of all, the character of Tether, right? But then in addition to that, it shows that, look, this is held and it's strong. I just thought that was real interesting. Go ahead. I apologize.
And it turns out also not just Cantor Fitzgerald, but Fidelity and Schwab are also holding treasuries for them. And now they're not publicly saying how much they are, but it's if it's known that they're holding them, it's a lot. And in the article here, and I think it's another article that I have that it'll be tiny print you can't see. It's interesting to note because Pedro and I talked about this the other day. We talked about how the U.S. government is uncomfortable with their Tether growing so large. Because all of a sudden they have a big influence on the treasury buying market and all that type of stuff. And one of the things that there is that's a very complicated topic that is hard to understand and most people don't even know about just because it's not a retail thing is what's called the repo market. And it's when the U.S. government on a nightly basis goes and says, "Hey, we don't have enough money to pay our bills tomorrow until we print some more money up. We need to borrow some from banks. And from whoever has treasuries, they borrow those treasuries back from them."
and or very large entities, corporations,
Right.
banks. It's not, like say Microsoft, right, or Walmart can take part in this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right. If you have they could go to Elon Musk. Can we borrow $100 billion overnight? Sure, here you go.
Yeah.
But it's called the repo market, or the reverse window, or whatever it's called. They have the ability to go back and buy it. It's been revealed that Tether participates in that now, and they actually lend money on a nightly basis to the U.S. government. And Howard actually just talked about this in. Don't tell me I didn't keep it up here.
Well, and while you're doing that, and you can find that, I also want to put this up. I keep going what you're doing. Did you find it or no?
No, I just keep talking. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think one of the things also I think is really important is that they've even talked about how there is a lack of demand for U.S. Treasuries. And the people who are actually gobbling up that demand currently right now is literally UST, USDC, right? A lot of these stable coins are going through and saying, we want to buy these. And we're actually they're actually even dictating the interest rate, saying that's too expensive. We're not going to pay that amount for that. And so now they're starting to having to raise higher interest rates so that when we buy, or when these entities buy U.S. Treasuries, they have to pay the crypto market at a higher rate. It basically allows them to make a lot more money that supports their organization, and then they take that money and what do? They buy more treasuries. So it's almost like this entity that we call crypto, right, is becoming almost the backbone of it. And now it's not that point, because I'll put it like this: there's 8-point-something trillion worth of USD in the world, right? And we understand that,
right.
And then you need to back that up with X amount of real money coming in that America pushes out, which is called our why am I forgetting what it's called? Our holy crap, bro! What is it called? With the thing that we make money and we make dude, I hate it when my brain.
Carnival?
No, boom. Yeah, sometimes it's like what's going on in my head, like a carnival. Here, take it over, and then I just whatever my brain just.
In Howard's Twitter feed here, interesting. He put this post out. He says one of America's greatest strengths is that the dollar is everywhere, circulating globally, being used as the world's reserve currency. Tether has taken that to the next level by putting USDT, the digital dollar, into the hands of people in emerging markets across the world. He's not talking about the U.S. and Europe, about emerging markets. Since USDT is backed by tens of billions of treasuries, in which he has said, 8 months ago they had $63 billion worth. Now they probably have $80 to $90 billion worth of treasuries. Is backed by billions of U.S. treasuries. The 300 million USDT wallet holders around the world are helping to finance, I can't see it's going to move, our U.S. government debt. Believe it or not, the creation of the crypto market and this little thing called Satoshi making this paper is fundamentally changing the way the U.S. government is financed. And I realize this is on a small scale compared to our overall debt, but it's a starting point.
But it's growing.
It's growing like crazy.
Yeah, almost on exponential.
And Pedro,
level.
were you looking for the word GDP?
Thank you, GDP. Holy crap, that was so hard to say.
Thank you, Troublesome Creek.
Thank you, Trouble. Dude, I couldn't have. I was like, bleh. My brain just was like, sorry, dude. I'm checking, and I'm like, oh, bro, come on. Anyways, I just went into total
Anyway, more to the point. So USDT, it is revolutionizing this, and specifically countries like Argentina, what is now becoming the black market currency in Brazil, officially a secondary currency in Zimbabwe, really unofficially, but not black market in Nigeria, and in Turkey too. All of these countries are relying on the peg to the US dollar that this has. Essentially what it is, they've created a stable coin, although I know it's known as a peg, in order to escape the inflation, escape the politicians corrupting the currency and debasing. We complain about 7% inflation or 5% inflation a year.
Dude,
imagine 100% or 250% inflation a year. And so they use it as an easy way to get in and out of their own currency at the retail level. It's changing. It's really changing everything. And then one of the themes here I said is Wall Street's getting into this market more than you think. When we talked about when the ETFs came out in March or April, whenever it was, everyone was like, "Oh my God, Wall Street's dipping their toes into Bitcoin. That's a good thing." By the time the ETFs were launched, Wall Street was full into Bitcoin and in this by just here with Cantor Fitzgerald holding 63 billion, now 80 some billion or whatever it is on behalf of Tether. Schwab, Fidelity also doing the same for Tether. And we haven't even talked about Circle and all the other ones going on too. And all the other products. I mean, JP Morgan has, a $1 trillion in-house blockchain that they're running called Onyx system, in which they're tokenizing assets and moving things around. And they're starting to create the links from that being an in-house thing to being a public thing and part of, essentially one day there's going to be a bridge for institutional clients, and then they'll start adding people to it and bringing down the level until they can own the world and that type of stuff. And other banks are doing the same thing too. So Wall Street is fully in on this much further than we could have expected. And these articles about Tether opened my eyes to that. And let me finish this thought. There's a whole group of people out there, especially when the ETFs came out, they're like, this is bad. And we covered this on the show. It's like, if Wall Street could get too involved in BTC, and they could own it all and basically shut it down. Not shut it down, but by sitting on, if they bought 20 million of the tokens, we'd be all left trading some sats. And they could manipulate the price greatly. As we saw today, that still majority of Bitcoin is held by individuals or very small holders, which negates a lot of that influence for now. But having Wall Street in on this little game we call, if you're a Bitcoin maximalist, then you're a maxi, then there's no hope in this discussion for you. And we not trying to convince you otherwise, because that's what you are. You're a Bitcoin maxi, and you're like, this is what I want, and this is why it's created. So we can all have our little thing here outside of the system. But now the system has come to you, and the system has come to you in a way that has said, we're going to bring trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars for the system. And for the past 3 years here, I would say, since Tether really got going, Wall Street has been setting the stage, just like the guy in The Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, pulling some strings and all that, laying the groundwork, making little progress. No, I shouldn't say little progress, making progress in little bite-sized things, making sure their risk is good, because that's how Wall Street works, and getting ready to go full in on this, especially as the next generation of traders and people graduating from university, from the various schools that are top notch, come in to work for all these firms, and all of a sudden the products are going to explode. And it's not going to just be Bitcoin, it's going to be all sorts of things. And I don't mean altcoins, and I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the economy. The quadrillion-dollar economy of the earth is going to be switched into a lot more of these products.
A tokenized system.
Just lastly, Pedro, and then I'll shut up. I'm not talking about, because people want to focus on the price of Bitcoin or the independence or self-custody. I'm referring to something much larger, and that is the global shift in an asset class from just cash sitting in accounts getting reloaned out, blah, 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 into cash and value being able to be moved around the world at lightning speed, and in places that before had restrictions on it. Like Africa is a very difficult place. And with just letting the market do its thing in Africa, without having corruption and all this type of stuff deal with it, the world is going to be a much better place. It's gonna explode like absolute bonkers in parts of the world that you're not even ready for, especially parts of the world that have a lot of natural resources.
I think also, and this is the part that I do like about it, right? And to even springboard what you're saying, not only is it going to open up new avenues of the ability where money can start to have circulation without government hands dipping into the cookie jar, but then at the same time, it honestly makes the US stronger. And you're like, how is that possible? Because every time you go in and you buy an actual USDT, you're charged a certain amount of money for that. That money gets put into USDT cofferdams. And then what do they do with that? They put that money back into treasuries. And so as it keeps growing, all of a sudden it makes a stronger America. It makes a stronger system that as it keeps, now granted, like I said, there's 8 trillion plus, and probably a lot more than it right now, that's circulating currently right now in USD. But as things start to transition, we start to see that there's going to be a creation of money that's going to be brought into it as people keep buying USDT or USDC or many of these other organizations that are based really here in America. So the other part behind it is also seeing what's going to happen with the euro stable coins, right? As well as many of the other countries where this is going to be money that's going to be brought in and circulate, and it's not going to be centralized in a government stance, but literally allow people to be able to generate income off of this. And like right now, when I go in and I want to exchange US dollars to another country, I make no money off of that, right? But and unless I had and it costs a lot, right? But if I wanted to make money, I can sit there and stake or if I have enough money, validate for these, and I can make cash off of that. And that's going to be yield that can come to, somebody out in Mexico, right, who owns a farm, who needs cash and needs to figure out the current way, right? And if he goes and he buys DT or USD, he gets crapped into the system, and then he has to pay all this extra cash for it. Whereas you can do it instantly, and you can potentially take part of that cash, let's say 5%, and put it in as a validator or some form of yield for yourself. So I think it's just really interesting to see as we continue into this market where and what is actually going to be established, and there are going to be a lot of people that are going to make a lot of money.
I do too. And that's an important point you brought up, Pedro, is that everyone here that's a listener in this show can participate in the making money part of it, not just the banks and all that. Literally, you can stake your Ethereum, you can stake
not in America.
Well, we have a lot of foreigners here.
Yeah, that's true.
You can stake your USDT. You can stake your USDC if you're here in the US. Have they re-allowed the staking of the USDC?
They have not allowed it. They're just so stupid, bro. And it's like this is why I want Trump. In all honesty, I want Trump to get in office so I can stake. That's it.
Right, because you can make good money instead of your money just sitting around.
Yeah.
Or you worrying about it. You can make a lot of good money. I was listening to a trader the other day on X Spaces, and he said I make most of my money from either just staking, and he's British, either staking or putting money in liquidity pools.
Yeah.
And he said I don't even care what the price of the asset does. He said they're borrowing my money and they're paying me for it. Mm-hmm. And he said, obviously, if the price goes to zero, then my liquidity pool goes down by a lot, or his LP that he contributed goes down. He said, but by and large, if you stake, and especially on projects with volume, you make a ton of money. Yeah, you can make a lot of money. And he says, I take my profits out at my certain points, and I just buy more SOL and BTC. And he named 2 other things that he stacks as native coins. And then I make profits in those and convert that to USDT and USDC or USD whatever and other things. And he said, then I go back and start staking that again. And he said all my money is working for me all the time.
All the time. It's not stagnant and at a good yield.
And that's how the rest of us can participate in all this. Mm-hmm. And frankly, it's amazing. It's really amazing.
And here's the thing: this was only given to the large banks, the megalithic banks that have the ungodly amount of money, right? That they were only allowed to get this. And here's the part: I had a friend of mine who literally put a certain amount of money into a protocol. He staked it within, and then he became part of the liquidity pool, right? Within 30 days, I think 30 or 33 days, I forget exactly what he said. It was like, but I put it as, I chalked it up to 30 days. He made 100% of what he had invested just off of the return. He paid taxes on that, by the way. He pulled it out, paid taxes on it. So now he's playing with house money, right?
Right.
Then that money he's then brought in again, which was less than the first 30 days. But what he was able to do is that money then he put into USDT. And again, it's an infinite money system that could allow people to actually start businesses, allow people to finally start to do what they want to do and create real jobs, versus the government coming in with their money, their systems, and trying to help out. Whereas like you could, you educate a poor person financially how to actually handle this and do this, and you don't need a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Like a few $100, put it in there. It will start to generate and bring you yield. And then now you have an additional income to come in, right? And so it's just going to be really interesting to see it once the politicians start to understand, wait, oh, this can be used like this? Wow, this can be used like this? Like, yes, this is why DeFi is so powerful. This is why crypto is so powerful, because the money generation is now taken out of the hands of major banks. And here's the other part. Big banks can still have their pie and eat it. Like, that's the part that it makes crypto so beautiful. And there I'm on my soap, or what is it? My soapbox. There we go. My soapbox.
We've got a lot of soapboxes today. For those of you now joining in from the DeFi Dojo Lounge, I really appreciate it.
Glad to have you guys.
I just put the call out for some places that I missed earlier. Noah said he would join only if I promise more Top Gun references. We will definitely do that. Definitely.
Noah. That's good. It's good.
There's in fact, I'm just gonna put that one right back to him.
That's so good. That's good, dude. Top Gun, man. That is so good, dude. I actually need to go back and rewatch that, dude. Like,
I've watched them both recently, and I love every second of it.
Dude, it's such a guy, bro. It is such a guy movie, bro. It is such a dude's movie. Like, just like fast, like jets and shooting.
You've lost that love and feeling.
Stay with me, Goose. Stay with me, Goose. Dude, that's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, or what is it? It says we regret to inform you that your son is dead because he was stupid, or something like that. Or what was that line after? Yeah, there's so many great lines in that.
Yeah, and dude, Val Kilmer, before he lost his voice, man, like that was him at his prime. Like Val Kilmer, dude, when he was being Iceman, he's like, ah. And that part right there was it cracked me up, dude. I was like, what? I used to go around like, be like, what's wrong with you? Like, Tourette's? What's going on? I'm special ed, bro. What's up? Why you leave me alone, dude? Just let me do me.
I gotta tell you, half my my feed in Twitter is articles about, not in my work feed, but in my personal Twitter account.
Yeah,
is where people have posted or articles have been written about the F-14 fighter. And I realize the F-14 fighter, funny thing is one of my my dad's cousins, I just call him my cousin, but he's my dad's cousin, was a test pilot for Grumman in 1971 and 72 after he flew in Vietnam. Oh, wow. And flew as a test pilot for Grumman, the F-14. And so he's talked about it. I've known him a long time now, obviously, but he's talked about it a long time. And now it's the old fighter. The F-14 played a prominent role even in the beginning of the war against the Taliban in Afghanistan in 2001. And now it's a retired fighter. It's done. They haven't even kept them around for shows because they don't want any of the spare parts falling into the hands of the Iranians who still have the F-14. And my feed is just filled with them, and it's all the time. And I'm like, it doesn't matter what the article is, I'm reading it.
Dude, those are some of the top, like, those were the highlight.
His beloved. God, where's Jesus when we need him?
I know, right? Very insightful. His beloved.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
His beloved. Really appreciate it. Yeah, we can, Pedro and I can talk Top Gun forever.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you joining us, thanks. I really appreciate it, helping with our numbers. We've been talking all day about this company here, Cantor Fitzgerald and Howard Lutnick, who runs it, and their support of USDT and how that's helping. It's not only helping the crypto market, it's actually helping fund the United States government and the debt that we sell in ways that nobody predicted 5 years ago. It's been very interesting, and I may have mentioned this on the air before, but. Cantor Fitzgerald, my dad went to school he went to prep school in New Hampshire, and his roommate that whole time was this fellow by the name of Charles Zion, everyone called him Chuck Zion, and then they both went to Syracuse University, and they were roommates at various times at Syracuse University, and when graduating, Chuck went to go work for Cantor Fitzgerald, having a good career there, rose to be a managing director with Howard here, and then unfortunately on 9/11, he was Cantor Fitzgerald offices are at the top of the old World Trade Centers, and he was killed in the attack on 9/11, and now his name is inscribed on the memorial at the base of the old 2 or 1 World Trade Center. I don't remember which building they're in.
Yeah,
and that was in obviously 2001. At that time, I was looking for a new job. I had been working in the armored vehicle industry, and I went to work for an internet company in California that promptly went out of business.
Quickly.
Yeah, very very soon after I got there, I was like, I wonder if it was me.
Nah.
But the armored vehicle company I was working for, which was a related family member, owned it. Got bought out. We developed the up-armored Humvee for the Army, got really huge, went public, and then we got bought out by what ended up being BAE Systems. And so, they changed up. They got rid of the product line I was selling. So I went to work for this internet company in California, moved out to California, that type of stuff. And they went out of business shortly after that. And I was looking for what to do. Should I go back and find another job in the armored vehicle industry, or should I go back working on Wall Street where I was before the armored vehicle industry? And I was having a discussion with my dad, and he's like, "Well, I could call Chuck and see if there's something for you at Cantor Fitzgerald." And I was like, "That would be really good, Dad, but I have a call in with an armored vehicle company in Chicago, and if they're hiring, I'd really like to work for them." He's like, "All right, well, just let me know." And sure enough, I got hired by this armored vehicle company in Chicago in August of 2001, and then in September 2001, Cantor went down with the World Trade Center. Probably about the same time I would have been there, either started working or they're interviewing or something like that.
Man, dude, you talk about this would have never happened, dude. That's a bit serendipitous. I mean, in a reverse way, right? Like how that.
I know, and it was. Yeah. It was. I was like. I thought to myself, "Oh my God, it wasn't like now where you're talking about 20 years ago. You're like, well, 3 years ago, that's something like that. I mean, at the time, I was like, oh, yeah. I could have been there that." 30, now,
Yeah. Yeah.
Strange, the world works in strange ways. And Chuck worked with Howard back then as a kind of a co-managing director. And now Howard's been running the place since then. Very successfully, I might add. And his foray into crypto and the digital dollar, I should say, in the digital economy is going gangbusters.
Yeah.
Gangbusters.
Well, I think the biggest part behind is that we're just starting to see this movement really start to take place, right? Like just the idea of being able to remove the middlemans and so many hands in the cookie jar and allowing free capital to actually distribute to the rest of the populace is going to be really interesting to see. And I mean, not just here in America, but I'm talking on a global stance, right? I've been seeing it propagate and really push, just put extra money in people's pockets to alleviate certain. And once I think the populace actually understands how this works, and granted, it's a little complicated, right, until you start to figure it out. But once they really get it and they're able to sit there and see, like, wow, I can actually make some extra cash here, you know, and it still be extremely safe. Like, that's the other part, right? Like, just as much as that you would put money into a CD at the bank would be, you know, safety wise, is as good as, let's say, putting it per se in USDT, right, or USDC as a staking option. And so it's just one of those things. And again, and I also want to put this in as a point. There's a big difference between staking and a CD as a bond, because when you are staking, it's my own capital that I put, that I am having it work for this organization. Right. It is not, okay, it's sitting idle and I'm saying, no, this is an active working situation for that, what do you call it? It's like when you work in your normal day job, right? It's a different type of, I wouldn't call it's the wrong word to call it investment. It's more like hours worked in a sense. So it would fall kind of under a different type of taxation, but then at the same time, it doesn't fall underneath the ability for it to be a security. And this is really important to understand, because that backside behind it then puts it into a completely different paradigm. And then you can do more with it versus it being an investment. So to add that into the mix here.
Pedro for President, Troublesome says. And Troublesome also says, I grew up on Air Force bases. Please tell me you grew up at one point at Ellis and watched the B-1 Lancer take off and do its thing. That one of my favorite planes is that FNB-1. There's nothing more impressive than that thing. And simply because I'm biased towards it, because the Chicago Water Show used to start every year with 2 Lancers. And the announcer would trick everybody. It's right on the waterfront. The announcer would be like, I see them out there on the horizon. They're coming. You can see that little smoke trail way out there. That Lancer's engines smoke a little bit. So you can see them way out. Just look way out in the horizon. And as he's saying that, he's tricking you. The Lancers come off the deck behind us at 400 miles an hour on burner. 2 of them. And they come over the beach like this and then do that over the lake.
Dude, talk about your heart.
And it's the most unbelievable thing you've seen in your life. And the sound and the loudness, kids are crying, car alarms are going off. It's an effing disaster, but it's the coolest thing ever. You're like, oh my God, America.
You're right.
And so it was just the coolest thing. I love that B1 the B1 normal one and the B1 the longer one, the B1B Lancer, just awesome. We're right off it. Okay, well we'll say it's more strategic right off it.
Strategic.
The strategic bomber base.
You know, it's interesting. I was at a foster. I remember being in a foster home, and we went and saw the Blue Angels, and those guys are just like you want to be an American, man. Like when you're like, you see these guys flying in and out, and you see them with, you know, creating the little I don't know what they call them, the mist things, right? But it's like one of those things.
This is what the pilot says. He goes, "Smoke on, ready now," and he's talking to the other pilots, because you can listen to them on your scanners. Smoke on, ready now, and then they turn their smoke on and the mist and all that. Then he's like, smoke off, and you listen to them. It's really interesting how they talk to each other.
Oh, it's beautiful, man.
It's crazy. And those guys on the Chicago waterfront, and they go in between the buildings and stuff. It's just. One time the Thunderbirds, I'm at Wrigley Field, sitting in the upper deck, and the F-16 comes around, the Air Force Thunderbirds comes around, and in between, it wasn't in between, but it seemed to me, in between the scoreboard and us, the plane turned like this, and you could see the rivets on the plane.
Yeah.
It was so close, and you could see the pilot looking down at us like this, And I mean, he's just above the stadium and he's just outside it, but it looked like he was inside it. I remember the players, because I couldn't see him coming this way because the stadium is behind me. All of a sudden, the players and the umps all kind of look up like this. Umps is like timeout. And the plane comes roaring through during the show. And there's another time you're like, oh, America,
yeah. Jumping back a little bit to what we were talking about, real quick, just to the dollar. So, looking at the 1 month yield as we're starting to trade, right? So we talked about last month, the market was starting to descend from the 1 month yield here. And so one of the things that I was saying is we could see it bounce off of this area here. Let me make sure if I'm able to see. Oh, yeah, here we go. So we were talking about this 522 area, the 5% 22 or 20 or 221 area here off of the monthly, off of this monthly support, with at the same time we have this support level sitting at around 517% and 469. So it's gonna be really interesting to see if this holds here. So when you look at the weekly, we're also sitting with the 89 sitting at that 517 area here for percentage wise. So I would expect the institutions to start to kind of put a hold on this little sell-off that we're watching, and maybe potentially see a bit of a rally back up and then potentially drop down, because ultimately we're going to have to see the 1 month, 3 month, 6 month, and up to 1 year and 2 year, right, revert back to where you have the 30-year, which should be higher rates than these monthly rates. So it's one of those things that, it's not going to be instant, but it will be one of those things that you're going to start seeing as we start to move. So it's really, really important to be looking at also like the 30-year. We're watching the 30-year sell off again, right? And this doesn't, the bull steepening doesn't happen like overnight, right? It's a period in time where you see, the longer yields start to push up above the shorter yield, and that causes turmoil within the bonds, right? And those bond yields start to have issues, and people are selling off, people are buying, and so it puts strain on fixed income, which is the biggest U.S. dollar sustainable situation, right? It's like, okay, if I buy this and I buy the US dollar, I should get X amount of yield for X for this when I buy US treasuries, right? These bonds. So I expect this. So we might be seeing some upheaval that happens, and basically people pulling out their money from the actual economy. So you're like, wait, what do you mean? So right now we could potentially see a major sell-off within the S&P 500, which we could see it come down potentially. And I kind of hinted at this yesterday with, we didn't talk about with, why am I forgetting them called? NVIDIA, right? Like we talked a little bit. We talked about a little bit about NVIDIA last week, right? And just the aspect behind them. But in that same aspect, looking at NVIDIA and seeing the huge sell-off that we saw yesterday, and I'll open this up right here, right now. NVIDIA, like many of you guys know, is per market cap the largest stock, or was the largest stock in all of the stock market. And now we're starting to see it sell off. And we talked about how, are they substantiated in what they do? Are they really worth what they're supposed to be worth? And a lot of money managers, and a lot of people that are kind of To me personally, I think they are. I think they are the only ones who can do what they can do, and in addition do it as well as they do it. And so as we're starting to see NVIDIA sell off, I'm looking honestly at a 92 NVIDIA, potentially 78 to 75. And if all else fails, man, potentially even a 4608 NVIDIA. No matter what, I'm buying these guys. Like in relationship to this, because it's just crazy that these guys are selling off. They may not be as of a big deal as they say they are, but I think they very much are, because the reality is that Elon Musk is primarily buying from them and their primary stuff. What's this? Very excited for the UAE Durham peg stablecoin. The opportunity is immense. Yes. How do you Paola? Oh, I'm horrible. Powell.
He's the UAE representative for Tether.
Oh wow. Oh shoot. So where are you pulling that from? From what? From his ex?
From X.
Nice. So it's like one of those things, man. And yeah, it's a huge
Welcome
thing.
everyone watching on X. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. All 18 of you, appreciate you. If we could get you guys to actually make a comment, we'd appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? That would be really, really cool. But hey, it happens, right? So, but I just want to bring this up because I'm going to bring this back to the dollar, right? As we start to see a sell-off of what's happening with a lot of the things within the stock market, and we start to see a turnaround, we could potentially see these opportunities to be able to buy. So save your money. Make sure you guys are saving your money. You're not blowing your cash, right? And you could be able to buy in at the low points of like the 51.82 area that I'm expecting to see the stock market come down to, right? The S&P 500. Again, this is not financial advice, but I do expect to see some type of movement as we drop. Also, potentially coming down to the gap area of that 46.62, potentially by the end of the year, if this thing really starts to get wings and starts to see it kind of drop as we see it. And that correlates with if we start to see the dollar push up off this level, you could see that as the dollar pushes up, and then it kind of makes things where it makes it more difficult for business to come and do business in America and buy our goods and services. So that's something that could see a play as things start to kind of do this seesaw effect. And so all that to say that USDT, you can put your money, one of the things you could do is put your money into USDT and be able to stake and or validate for extra yield in their yield system and receive a lot more money. And jumping back to the yield here in America, again, I know this is kind of a convoluted way of kind of explaining all this stuff, but we could then see USDT start to offer.
I just screwed up the screen.
It's all good. It's all good. But you can see here with the U.S. 1 month, as this is starting to see a sell-off, we could see interest rates start to even interact within the U.S., which we will actually. But this is to me, this is fun because it's like all we're doing. Okay, this is what potentially could happen. This is what potentially could happen. But long story short, I do expect us to see this bounce off of the 5.18% area to see it come back up to around that 5.4 or 5.40% on the 1 month, and for you to kind of get some yield again at that point. Anyways, that's it in a nutshell. Sorry.
Pedro, while you were talking about that, I thought that guy was the UAE representative for Tether. No, he's their CEO, Paulo Arduino. Arduino?
I don't know.
I can't pronounce it.
But he's the CEO.
Right. He says, a short summary as of June 30th, 2024. For the second quarter of this year, they had a $1.3 billion net operating profit just for 3 months. A $520 million increase in Tether's own group equity outside of the stuff that's Tether. You know, this is just the value of the other holdings they have for themselves, not linked to backing Tether, bringing it to a total of $12 billion they've got sitting around on their side of the balance sheet. $5.3 billion in excess reserves, more than $97 billion in U.S. Treasuries, either via direct or indirect exposure. I don't know what indirect exposure means. Now, maybe they hold some directly, and maybe indirect is what other companies custody for them.
Maybe.
$7 billion increase from the previous quarter, a new all-time high. This achievement brings Tether's exposure to treasuries above Germany, the United Arab Emirates, and Australia. While China and other countries have been recent net sellers of U.S. treasuries, Tether positioned itself as the 18th in the rankings of the countries owning U.S. debt, and 80,000 Bitcoin owned by Tether's group. This is going to be the infinite money machine right here.
Yeah.
It's going to be the absolute infinite money machine. He goes on to say it's a once in 100-year opportunity. Tether's primary goal, and I can put this on the screen. Tether's primary goal has always been to create the most solid, stable, and resilient stablecoin Our attestation data shows our company's commitment to this endeavor. Tether's management, in fact, decided to keep $5.3 billion in excess reserves as part of the stablecoin reserves, on top of the 100% reserves that are backing all issued tokens, to further protect USDT's global user base. And this goes on for a long article here about this. So it's I thought I had it up on the screen, but it doesn't matter. Two of the biggest investments recently announced: artificial intelligence, being AI probably the most beautiful, blah, 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 blah. Northern Data, they've invested in biotech, in BlackRock and Neurotech. Tether acquired a majority stake. All right, so they're starting. We've talked about this, that they can't just sit on cash. They got to plan for rates going back down to 2 or 1%, and they won't be making much money. So they're starting to make investments in things, which means they're starting to hire investment houses and hire people to do that for them. Well, last I heard, they only had like 50 employees. Some banks with billions of dollars have a few thousand employees and trying to figure out how to invest their money.
It's interesting when I think about the idea of neurotechnology, as I think that's honestly one of the most hidden gems in the current world right now, because once you're able, and we talked about this yesterday, of just that ability to be able to say, oh, I know Kung Fu, right? That in itself is such a huge, it's going to revolutionize everything that we actually understand, and the level of increase as we interact with AI, and our brain starts to really just on a hyper level start to grow. And again, I'm not a futurist. I'm not, I don't put, my faith into humanity per se, but as we start to grow as an intellectual entity overall, it's going to be really interesting to see, into generation alpha and generation beta, as they come into the workforce, they're going to have some type of neurotechnology to keep up. And so they're going to have a different type of level of intelligence. And it's going to be really interesting to see as we progress into the future in relationship to what that technology brings. And right now it's so cheap that people don't realize. It's like being able to buy into Microsoft.
Right.
And when everybody thought that computers would be silly.
Well, here's or
a fad.
This is what's interesting, is that Tether's a private company, and they have $12 billion in cash that they can basically get for free not for free, but by investing in treasuries. They've got $117 billion in one giant asset called Tether that's out there, along with its associated liabilities. And it's small compared to the economy, But imagine if Tether gets to $1 trillion in size, which is not out of the order. I mean, that's just 10x from now.
Yep.
And this isn't relying on degens and stuff like this. This is just people putting money into it, which is, as part of the investment scheme. It's very doable. Or they 100x it, and they're at $10 trillion. And the value of the US dollar right now is based on, for all intents and purposes, the US economy, right? And how the US government responds to that by printing money and money supply, and how the world's traders kind of look at that and move money around. And so, the value of the US dollar isn't completely controlled by the US Treasury. It's, they have to manipulate it and do different policies, and the Fed and all this, and they nudge it and they hint it and they nudge it. What if there's also Tether, and they've gone from just investing in treasuries, but they also invest many trillions of dollars in all sorts of stuff around the world, so that the value of this, taken by the world's forex traders and interest rate setters and all that, they also take into account what Tether owns. So suddenly the value of the US dollar becomes more diversified.
It will be.
And not just in control by the United States government. I mean, they can just print zillions more and devalue it. But I mean, the concept that more people could be at that table saying, no, we're gonna tweak our policies a little bit to tighten, to ease or not to ease, and that type of stuff. And it could be Tether. They could be saying, you know what, we're gonna lower the valuation of Tether compared to the U.S. dollar because the U.S. dollar is not doing what we want, and our investments are doing better. So USDT, we're gonna raise its valuation, so it's 1.1 US dollars now.
Right, because
imagine that when they have the ability to do that, and all of a sudden that's a big change.
They then would be the biggest dog at the table, because if they had that ability to be able to do that, USD lost a 9.0 its value since 1930 or 1930.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a fake argument. I mean, I like those graphs and all that, how inflation robs you and all that, but every currency has. It's not like one currency is and like, oh no, ours hasn't. I mean, the average currency only lasts 35 years. In the pound and the has lost that much value. The Japanese yen has lost that much value. Everyone's lost that much value.
Yeah, it's just not one-sided. But like in the aspect of that ability that they could actually take the actual currency itself and say, we're now, because of inflation, we need to raise this, because they themselves are their own separate entity. They could potentially be the reserve itself, right? When enough companies go through and they're buying USDT, right? They themselves could sit there and say, okay, now, like the UAE, right? They have a stable coin. There's a stable coin that they have. There's a euro stable coin that currently is held by a private entity, right? That gets traded. Now, a lot of the new laws that are coming out, they're starting to really say, hey, look, we don't like this. We don't like that. You have the ability to have this and this. So this is where you have a lot of the MiCA laws kind of kicking in. But on the back end, if these companies start to heavy, because here's the thing, this is the part that I keep bringing in. Every time there's an exchange of your money to USDT, they're receiving income regardless of what the USDT is doing, right? And in addition to that, they're receiving income from treasuries, whether that's treasuries through the US government, whether that's treasuries through Europe, whether that's treasuries, even let's say they want to take on bonds over in Japan, right? Japan is talking about raising rates now, right? Which again is going to throw off the U.S. carrier trade or the Japan carry trade, right? So as it starts to move, this is going to get really interesting. And they can sit there and say, U.S. government, stop being dumb. We're going to take our money and put it over here. Don't do this. And they're going to be one of the primary people at the table going, let's not be dumb. Like, let's look at these, and not just from your perspective, from a global standpoint, So I think, like you said, it's going to be really interesting as we move forward, because like you said, they could go, you know what? We're no longer a 1-to-1. We're a 1 to 0.1% or a 1 to 0.2% based off of policies. And
tying that all up into our discussion around the day out, and now you know why Wall Street's involved. Because when we see this type of money coming from a lot of places outside of Wall Street's current reach, which is not there's not many, into something that could be, a global player in the value of the reserve currency of the world, you can see the money that's to be made in being part of that, and that's something else. Right. There's a good point. You take out currency base when the U.S. is not recovered from 1929. Yeah, in terms of currency, but in terms of standard of living, in terms of, productivity, in terms of, all the things that really matter. I shouldn't say debasement doesn't matter. That matters a lot, because if you're someone that relies on a trust fund and don't have income coming in or something like that, it's difficult as you get debased. But the real, the cost of living going up, but also your standard of living going up, and the productivity. Like, that's why the U.S. is so lucky. Our productivity is $200 and some odd $1,000 per GDP per person, and or per worker, per whatever. And the next closest is Germany at 59,000 or something like that. That's why, even though by currency stakes we haven't recovered from 1929, but in real life.
Actually,
shit's good, man.
Actually,
and
it's
walking
higher.
around in no holes in my shoes and living in a dust bowl.
Dude, I mean, it's $630,000 asset per citizen. This is what we actually
Is
do.
that what it is now? Oh,
No,
per
no.
citizen.
Yeah. So this is the asset that we actually hold. Household app. I just saw it. Corporate assets. No, where is it at?
I do have to get going here soon, Pedro.
Yeah, let me go and let you go. Let's go to. Well, I'll find that out. Tax. I thought it was. Man, I forget where it was. Revenue per citizen. No. All right, we'll get moving. Yeah, I think we're in a. I think it's gonna be right. Oh, what a secret window tonight at 6. Yeah, I'm gonna have to play that. See what that's about. but like in the same sense, there's so much going on. Man, I'm so not used to me being on camera that I'm like going like this and like.
Oh, it's hard. It's hard. Trust me. You want to stick my finger halfway up my nose every now and then, and you're like, well, can't do that. Oh, wait.
You guys doing there already?
It's really hard. It's like Talladega Nights. My hands. What do I do with my hands?
Like you, I just realized like I talk to my hands all the time. So I'm sitting there talking, and then I look and I see over here on the left and on the right.
I really enjoy people that talk with their hands when they're by themselves. It's really enjoyable because I talk with my hands too, but when there's somebody that can see them. When if I wasn't on camera, I'd be like this, blah 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 blah. But since I'm on camera, I can be animated. But I see people in the car and they're waving their hands. I'm like, who are you waving your hands at?
That's so true, dude. I'm like, sometimes when I'm talking to somebody, and I'm like sitting there, sometimes I'll grab something, and I'm like, right. And if I'm in the car or whatever, and you're like, yeah, there's something. Like, sometimes I wonder if like there's something wrong with me because I'm like, yeah, I'm like moving, and anyways, probably is something wrong with me. But anyhow, dude, man, it was a good topic, man. We had some good conversation, and you know what? I gotta admit, we didn't get down to 2 people on YouTube, which would have been me and you. We actually stayed. I mean, I think it did get down to 5 here, but no, we still had over 30. The live will end up by the time YouTube catches up with it 40, and we had another 20 so on X, and LinkedIn isn't telling me what it is right now, but I'll guess that there's another 20 over there and stuff that tuned in for something, and we'll get our one scammer on Kick and 2 or 3 people on Twitch. These deeper conversations that we have are more difficult, and they don't attract the degens that want to come in and see us review their shit butt in you token and all that type of stuff, which is hard. But I gotta tell you, Pedro, these discussions like this, I learn a lot just talking about it, doing the research ahead of time, talking about it with you. Or even when you think, oh, I got it, and then you talk through it, or you think through it right about before you're ready to speak, and you're like, oh, that doesn't make sense at all. I better not open my mouth and say that. And then I think about it again, and I'm like, oh, that's how this works. And frankly, that's how I studied in school. If I just was given a book and said, study this, I did very poorly. But if I sat with a group of people and talked it out and said, let's do examples and this, and described it verbally, things like that, then I would ace the course because I could talk through it and I would understand it. And right now, I'm acing the DYOR media channel, ladies and gentlemen. Pedro is too, with these awesome discussions that we're having. We're coming at the end of the show here today. And I'm glad that we finally got Pedro into the, as Daryl Lawton says, in full Technicolor. There we go.
We get the real deal here, he says. You do, and I hope that people learn from it and learn and are edutained by us.
Edutained.
We like it. We'd like to get to the point where we've got thousands of users here, and our Patreon's full, and we got fat bags and all that kind of stuff. That day will come.
Yeah.
Some other day, hopefully.
Soon.
And hold on, I was trying to click something here to show it, and it brought up a commercial. No, that's the wrong thing. That's just some space thing. It was supposed to be Sam Prices. He had Andrew Weiner on from Weeks.
Oh, really? That guy's dude. He's
yeah, I'm talking about it. And they gave away 100 USD to a whole bunch of people today live on the show and all that.
Dude.
And Weeks is a competitor of our sponsor, BidFi, right down here, ladies. And if the 10 of you still listening to this haven't clicked on this BidFi link here, please do it. It helps us out. And we need to be able to show not the current sponsors, but future sponsors that our group is reactive to that and signs up for stuff.
Dude, he hit me up
and helps us out.
He's like, I think he's watching our show. I have to admit, I do think he's watching our show because, like, it's like, dude, they're trying. Like, he's trying. I think he's trying to like get us because he sees the potential of us, and so he's like, I feel like he's. I don't know if you're getting him too, but anyways, I just think it's.
What we should have him do is we should have him, because I've mentioned this to Sam and his wife before.
Yeah.
But what we should do is get him to also bridge the fact that when Sam's show ends, he just raids our show, and our show starts when Sam's ends. Because you can do that on YouTube now. You can just raid, and your viewers switch over, and that would help us out a lot.
Dude, that would be huge, dude, because you're talking all of a sudden you're going from, because he's going into day trading, right? We've actually talked about me really doing a, like, how I just trade, right? I go in and I trade and I make my money. And the problem is for me is because I've made some vows to a few people who've taught me, I can't just do that, right? Like part of it was they taught me.
Got the secret sauce.
Yeah. And there's, it's the proofs in the pudding, right? But so I can't just trade like that in that same sense. So it'd be cool to be able to actually connect with Sam, and then we kind of have like that global standpoint of us doing like the macro after the market happens. Then at the same time, or it may be that in between because he's trading the morning session, which is where all the volume comes in. Then what happens is, and then during the afternoon, right, when we come on 12 to 3, it more slows down. You have a doldrum of the day, and now they're just stopping people out and screwing people over. So we could talk about even those markets, and I could actually go over into that. Actually, you know what? We should talk about this because this would actually be a good segue for his organization. And moving that you just sorry. Oh, you're right. I'm forgetting that I'm shoot.
You need the red light. You can buy a little USB red light. It says when your camera's on, you're on the air. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to the end of the show. I've just set Pedro's mind on fire again with ideas, and we'll work on them behind the scenes. Thanks to everybody for watching today. We really appreciate it. As always, these long discussions that are deeper in nature and of more economic don't generate the live views. But I'm going to use the old AI machine here to cut this one up and try and launch some shorts. And so if you see me and Pedro on your short YouTube Shorts feed, hit that like button, hit that comment, forward it. It really makes a difference on those shorts if you forward it to somebody. Yeah. And feel free to forward it to me. Forward it back to Pedro. Forward it to your grandma. I don't care. Forward it to your alt account.
Grandma wants to
hear. But what really makes a difference is when you like it, but when you forward it to someone, because then they know that's important, and it puts it back in the rotation, that type of stuff. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Dar Baby's getting the last quote of the day here. He wins the contest. Have a great day, everyone. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, my name's Tom, otherwise known as Striking here in the digital media world. So glad to have hosted another episode of DYOR Live. We'll be here tomorrow, same time, same bat channel. So be there. Oh, I hit that one right on the timing nose. Yeehaw!